My name is Jacob Sherman, and today is July 30th, 2010, and I'm here at the home of Dr. Clyde Kindell in Denison, Texas. Today we are visiting with Dr. Kindell for a second time about his work in Ethiopia. Thank you, Dr. Kindell, for allowing us to interview again.
You're most welcome, and I appreciate having an opportunity to share with you.
All right, before we started this interview, you were discussing the impact that can't be measured tangibly. Maybe you want to put that on the record and how important the OSU experience was for not only the generation that was educated, but also future Ethiopians.
Well, our personnel had opportunities through their students and other avenues of public relations to reach out beyond the classroom and the academic environment. We had opportunities to personally support young people who were in mission schools that were struggling to even buy the minimal amount of clothing to attend those schools. And we have tangible evidence that those young people...
Hold on. Sorry. I hit the wrong button. I apologize.
No problem.
Sorry. That's still going. Let's see. Let's make a mental note of that. 2 minutes.
Start all over again?
Yeah, I gotta start all over again. I hit the wrong button.
No problem.
It says record pause here, and I forgot to hit the one that says, the red button that says record. Okay, let us begin again. My name is Jacob Sherman, and today is July 30th, 2010, and I'm here at the home of Dr. Clyde Kindell in Denison, Texas. Today we are visiting with Dr. Kindell for a second time to discuss his work in Ethiopia. Thank you, Dr. Kindell, for allowing us to interview a second time so we can further gather information from you.
Jacob, it is my pleasure, and I appreciate having an opportunity to share with you.
Okay, and we were discussing before the snafu here, what types of impact that OSU had that cannot be measured tangibly. What kind of impact did OSU have on Ethiopia, not only for the generation that was educated in the 50s and 60s, but also for future generations of Ethiopians?
Even though the Oklahoma State University program was there to establish agricultural institutions, including technical institutions at the high school level, also at the university level, there was a lot of opportunities for the program to expand out beyond the academic environment, because our personnel had opportunities to engage themselves with such activities as supporting mission work there and assisting young people, young Ethiopians who otherwise would not have an opportunity to begin their education. Some of them even did not have adequate resources to buy their own clothing. So by reaching out, even through our student body that had relatives that needed help, we have left there tremendous opportunities for young people to continue to expand. And the thing about it that I found among Africans is they never forget a friend, but they also never forgive an enemy. And you establish friendship among the Ethiopians. They will never forget it, and we have evidence to this day that there's many Ethiopians in Ethiopia now that you mentioned Oklahoma State University, and they remember it with fond memories.
And are these people that, would you say, did not have connections, like a primary connection to the institutions of higher learning there, or?
No, there just was not adequate education facilities for the general population. So we had students who had younger brothers or sisters who went to mission schools. The only way that they could go is through mission schools, but the mission schools could not fully support the students. So our personnel, which were quite numerous, extended their own outreach through the financial resources and such that provided broad opportunities for the younger generation in the elementary level schools.
So OSU laid the foundation for education there, or?
OSU laid the foundation primarily for the agricultural. The Emperor Haile Selassie liked the land grant system of college and universities. And he wanted Dr. Bennett, who was the first .4 director, he asked Dr. Bennett to emulate our particular program of agricultural higher education, including not only the academics, but also the research and extension arms. So that's what we did in Ethiopia, and that was our basic responsibility, is establishing a land grant type of institution, emulating what was the basis for OSU in the beginning, as well as other land grant colleges.
Okay. Now, when you were president over there, what was your overall guiding philosophy?
What the overall guiding philosophy was to provide educational opportunities at the academic standards that would be universally accepted throughout the world, including the United States, but yet apply them to the Ethiopian condition. We had to be very careful that we didn't try to emulate what was going on in the United States. They're in a developing country. You can't just impose developed types of technology on a developing type. And I think I shared that with you with the Emperor Haile Selassie asking me point blank whether we were attempting to develop a dairy program there just like the United States. Well, I hedged on that because here in Ethiopia, to develop a dairy program just like the United States would not have been real feasible. And I said, well, not exactly like that. And he snapped back very much and said, why not? So the emperor had the goals of development and used the United States as the particular model, which is good, but it's a good, it's a noble goal, but not a feasible one in that one has to develop it. So we attempted to provide these technical services and the scientific approach and the research approach as it applied to Ethiopia, not as it would apply in the United States that was highly technically developed.
What kind of examples besides the dairy and that you could cite?
Okay, we were attempting to move from the oxen type of power in the fields to horsepower or to mule power, like the evolution of agriculture in the United States, whereby first it was through animal power. The thing that in Ethiopia, though, is that the type of soil does not lend itself well to mechanization, or the particular climate and environment does not lend itself to horses especially draft horses. So while we then tried to improve upon the oxen plow, and then we tried to move toward using mule power, because mules and donkeys are quite indigenous there. Horses are not, however, they do have horses, but they're subject to diseases. And this is where it's difficult to try to mechanize in Ethiopia because of the soil types that do not lend themselves to mechanical. They have a different kind of clay there that lends itself more to oxen than it does to the other. I don't mean to get too involved in this, but there are certain environmental limitations to their technological development in agriculture.
What was the emperor's educational background?
The emperor primarily was homeschooled by a French tutor. He had, as far as I know, a French tutor that kind of looked after him daily, and he became quite fluent in French. And as far as I know, he did not in any way go to any foreign university. It was all brought to him, and he was, use a term, a better term, he was homeschooled.
So I was wondering how he got these ideas of building a land-grant institution, like who supplied those ideas to him?
Dr. Bennett, when Dr. Bennett was appointed by President Truman to head up the Point Four, and you know the Point Four was his inaugural address, and the fourth point in his inaugural address was the international development. And he named Dr. Bennett. Dr. Bennett then chose countries that he felt like would be some of the best starting points in developing agriculture, the agricultural industry. And so he chose Ethiopia as one that he wanted to target. So then when he visited Emperor Haile Selassie, he shared with Emperor Haile Selassie the particular model that the United States used through the land grant method, the Moral Act, to develop institutions of higher education and agriculture. And the emperor liked that. Now, one of the things, though, there wasn't enough feeder type institutions to feed into it, and so we developed the technical, a 4-year high school, GM Agricultural Technical School, to prepare students to transition on into the college at Alamaya. Now, there was one other, a similar school at Ambo. It was operated, I know that when I was there, that the director of that school was German. So they used other resources besides the United States at the Ambo School. So the Ambo School of Agriculture and the Jima School of Agriculture were the two major feeder institutions to the college. Now there were some foreign students. We had some good foreign students, other African foreign students that came to college. Not many, but we had some top students.
Did it take a while for Ethiopians to adjust to the Western style of learning, or did you guys have to adjust?
There had to be adjustments by all parties. The Ethiopians they learn by rote memory. Their language is really rote memory. And I would observe students studying for an exam, walking up and down the streets with their notes behind them, and they were memorizing their notes. So whether they understood the concepts or not They were good about putting back on paper what you taught them in class. And two, the Ethiopians, through the evolutionary process, developed tremendous capability of memory. It is really an ability that is awesome. I don't want to go into detail on how, but the thing about it, when you grow up without a particularly written language, all of it's got to be handed down by memory, and he who forgets, it's the survival of the fittest. And as I say, they had an uncanny ability to remember, very much so. Even your household people, your cooks. My wife would read an American recipe to our cook one time. Then she would say, "Tell me back what I just told you." And he could tell her verbatim. So again, you asked the question, the difference as far as that culture is memorization. Because two, the thing about it, under the British system, they did not give, in their examinations, they did not give periodic exams to the students, like we do to evaluate the progress we're making. They would teach that course, and that student at the end had to take a final without any kind, and that meant that they had to be tremendous memorizers.
Did you, now with this outstanding memory, could they remember their own history of their country? And in similar vein, they can memorize like...
Oh, sure, this is a thing that's caused some problems, is the fragmentation there among the tribes is due to a lot, is tribal memory. Right now, there's still animosity between Eritrea, who are Tigrinians, and Ethiopia. And Ethiopia, of course, the Amharas were the dominant tribe, but Ethiopia is more populated by, we call them Gala, but Gala is no longer an acceptable word now. There are just tribal histories, and they'll say they don't.
And they go.
In fact, again, that on my animosity. And I'll say this, it's true, it may be non-political, I mean, it may not be in politics, but even the Eritrean immigrants here in the U.S. and the Ethiopian immigrants, they still carry that animosity against each other. Now they'll get along, but they certainly don't appreciate each other.
So did you have to build up critical thinking skills, or
We would.
or problem solving skills?
Well, that's where the problem comes in, is to work with them on problem solving skills, because the memorization was so embedded that once you got them out of the memory mode, then it began to be difficult for them because they're so traditionally bound. Another thing that is notable is that, in the culture-wise, that it was difficult, and this is kind of an aside, but it's a cultural thing. They could not, to get an Ethiopian to build a square, it's absolutely impossible. But they could work with cones, they could work with circles, They could work with most any geometrical figure, but they could not work with squares because in nature, you look out at nature, where do you see in nature squares?
Yes.
It's all cylinders, columns, spheres, and bless their hearts, our people who were in our maintenance, to have them to make a repair on something as square or rectangular was just beyond their. So again, what I'm saying is, in the whole educational system, you must keep in mind of the cultural fixations as it would be in our own.
How did you, were you aware of these cultural differences prior to going over there, or did you have to conduct research on your own to
Well,
learn about these, or?
what they did before we went, our family went to a professor in the social science area at OSU campus. And this person spent a lot of time telling us about cultural things, such as don't sit with your legs crossed with the sole of your foot toward your host. That was an insult, and other things that were insulting, and this and that. And then after it's over, we said, well, how long were you in Ethiopia? He said, I've never been there. So what, certainly, we were given orientation at OSU before we left, but much of it one had to learn there, and we were very careful about. You see, we get President Obama gets criticized for bowing before heads of state. In Ethiopia, bowing to an official is just a custom. I bowed to the local governor. Local governor had me set up to come and see him on a regular basis if I need be, once a month or more often, but there was a time set aside that I'd either go see him or let him know I wouldn't be coming. And it was always a bow. You never turn your back. As you back out, you bow. And they appreciated your honoring their custom. And but again, it was a learned situation.
How long did it take for you to feel acclimated to Ethiopia and its customs?
Well, I would say probably I never did completely, even though we were there 8 years, get completely acclimated. But I would say probably the adjustment period, probably about the end of the first year. Because you see, your first experience there is rather unusual. It's like being on vacation. You have to kind of adjust to not being on a daily routine. So I would say that it began about a year after we were there, because there were certain things you had to get over some of the particular myths, so to speak. I wasn't about to go camping. I took no camping gear, no hunting gear, no nothing, because I wasn't about to go camping in the middle of the wilds. Well, I changed that because the hyenas, even though they were yelping at your back door, you become acclimated that they weren't going to have, all this fear factor disappeared, and after a year or two, we were camping in line country with our kids playing around the camp. That's just kind of an illustration that you had to begin to overcome some of the apprehensions that, that had built up. It was a really an enjoyable, totally enjoyable experience, and we have fond memories. The one thing that, Jacob, we don't realize that much of our society here, there's a lot of unnecessarily clutter, so to speak. We've established certain things that we can't do without. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they become distractions to really, to me, a fulfilling life. Whereas there, it is a more simple culture, and you don't have to deal with all the ancillary or extra luggage that civilization carries with it, okay?
It drags you down, that's for sure. What was your initial reactions to Ethiopia when you first set foot in the country, or during this adjustment period?
Well, with the image of Ethiopia, the image of Africa, you think in terms of villages and people who are ignorant, or people who are backward, or people who are primitive and such, you soon learn that the basic intelligence, the intellectual, inherent intellectual abilities are there, and that in dealing with some of the elders especially, they were wise in their years and were able to teach us very quickly and very kindly that some of the things that we were trying to do was not really a wise thing, because their own experiences had told them differently. And I'll just relate some things. For example, we at the college brought to Jima, which is quite a ways, a highly bred bull to that community, so that the community could upgrade their livestock. And presenting that bull, I said, and I, through a translator, I said, now don't go and castrate this bull and eat it. I said, you use it because he can better your livestock. Well, the response was, if you gave us seed, do you think we'd take them home and roast them? I mean, see, the kind response and the wise response, see, is there. We wanted to introduce the European breeds and the American breeds of chickens. One thing about it is you don't see a white chicken in Ethiopia. We tried white chickens, and the kites, predators, absolutely would wipe them out. There's no way a white chicken could survive. So then we then brought in brown leghorn chickens, and the brown leghorn chickens are similar color to their particular native fowl. Now another thing is, we introduced like Rhode Island Reds, which is a much larger chicken. It's for both purposes, eggs and for consumption. And one of the elders said, look, your roosters, your chickens are as big as donkeys. Now this is, and he says, if we can't eat it all, we have to throw it away. Because we can't keep it. So their chickens then were of size, whenever they killed a chicken, they consumed it in one meal. Another thing was cabbage. We could grow, I call it berry, we could grow head cabbage. Boy, just great. But the thing about it is, if what they couldn't eat at one meal, they could not preserve it. So all their cabbage is leaf cabbage. And they said, look, we take your cabbage and we kill it when we take it. With the leaf cabbage, we go and pick off of it what we want to eat at that time, and the plant still lives. So what I'm saying, Jacob, is we learned from them. And by our accepting this sort of thing and blending it into what we were teaching, then it was a learning experience for all, and we weren't trying to swim against the stream. The British, one of their big fiascos was the ground nuts, they call them peanuts. All the British found an area there in the Kenya area where they grew, while they ready to put out the peanuts. The only problem is when they harvested them, wasn't any nuts on them. And I found out that even though everything looked good, for some reason they, so go back to some of your other points. You've got to adopt it or adapt everything. If you're going to capitalize in English, for example, or English grammar, if you're going to teach capitalization, you can't say, well, you got to capitalize the major cities or the capitals of provinces, such. You can't use Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Stillwater. You've got to use Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, or you've got to relate it to their culture. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
How were you received by the Ethiopians?
Very, very cordial, and very politely. The Ethiopians are basically polite people. They really are. And the thing that it was very difficult for me to kind of adjust to, if I got out of my car parking lot and I had a briefcase and I was going to my office, students couldn't stand for me to carry that. They would run and take that briefcase and carry it for me. I was not supposed to, as president of that college, I wasn't supposed to be carrying. Now that was, in a sense, I think, a colonial sort of thing, because the colonials, including even the Indians, Asian Indians, who also adapted the colonial philosophy, is that you use a servitude approach to it. Now, one of the counters to that is this. One had to be very careful in extending kindness to subordinates. Now, that's, one of my Ethiopian colleagues told me, don't ever thank your servants, else it is consigned as weak. Don't ever thank them. Don't ever brag on them. Maybe I should say, don't ever brag on them. Well, this is a thing that I had to watch in dealing. I wanted to use cordial mannerisms to everybody. But in dealing with some of the more challenging administrative decisions, doing it gently and understandingly and stuff like that was at times misunderstood as a weakness. And one of my colleagues, Abraham Bizrat, told me, he was a biochemist, he said, Dr. Kindell, don't be concerned about some of the unrest amongst the Ethiopians. Let me tell you something. In our culture, whoever is head person, everybody else is actively trying to topple that individual. And he says, people, it's just a fact that there's a built-in resentment, so don't feel it personally. He said, don't take it personally. The advantage I had was that I had direct communications with Emperor Haile Selassie.
Yes.
And I shared that with you before, that even though I never used him as leverage as far as expressing a concern about a faculty member or such. They didn't know it. And he has as much confidence in us that all I'd have to say, I don't want him down here, and he'd be gone before sundown. But no, we didn't use that. But that is a problem, and that among themselves, an Ethiopian administering another Ethiopian, they use their culture. And another thing in their culture too, I don't want to get too verbose, but in their interrelationships, that there is a particular language used for a peer. There's a language used for subordinate, and there's a language used for superior. And any relationship, each party knows their particular standing as to their relationship with that other person. If it's collegial and a peer, there's a particular level of language and inflections that convey the fact that, you know, you and I are same.
Yes.
But then if one is superior to the other, in the language there's an inflection that one is superior and the other is subordinate. They understand that and they accept it, vice versa.
It's interesting. Would you describe like a typical day, or did you not have a typical day? Like, what was your like work schedule, hours, and that type of thing?
At GMO, we had our activities, our class work primarily in the morning from 8 until 12, and then they have their 2 hours off during the lunch hour. And then we go then from 2 until then 6 o'clock, and most of the afternoons where the students would be working in the coffees or the livestock and be doing practical work. So that was the general routine is classroom work, whatever courses they were taking. They would be generally designed from the United States, since we were moving toward sending to Alamaya those that were capable, and that their particular courses of study would be similar to the States so that they could go on for graduate work and such. But much of my work as director there was dealing with correspondence to the Minister of Agriculture, to our director there, OSU, and dealing with some discipline problems, counseling problems with faculty, assigning of faculty, and this sort of thing. At the college, it was similarly done. Each of those students had to have some practical experiences. If they were majoring in animal sciences, they had to spend so many hours working with livestock for practical, not necessarily laboratory, but for practical purposes. So the particular routine again is meeting guests, visiting the campus, and the .4 program, they sent all the guests they could down there. They wanted to show what we're doing, and one of the big obstacles, old Jacob, was they'd have visiting dignitaries out of Washington, and on weekends up in Addis Ababa, they didn't have much of anything for them to do. So what did they do? Why don't you go down to college and spend the weekend? And we had a tremendous number of visitors that would come from the State Department, from Washington, that were visiting. And we would host them for the whole weekend. And sometimes we surprised them and took them on a camping trip, but they didn't know that they were going to go. but nothing, nothing spectacular. We were always in a building mode. We were building the library, we were building faculty houses, we were building agriculture facilities. So much of my time was working with the construction aspect. When I say work, I supervising and coordinating that.
How big was your staff, or did you have a staff?
Well, we were designed similar to colleges and universities here. We had the president, and we had the dean of instruction, and then we had the business manager, and then we had the sports director, and all the particular staffing pattern that you'd find here in the States. Now, the Ethiopian had what is called the director of administration. They dealt with situations whereby it involved having to talk with locals and this sort of thing, like security, for example. All of our security force were Ethiopians, and so we had the director of administration that was over the security forces and such. We had our clinic with a registered nurse that took care of our student health problems and such. So we had director of physical plant, farm manager, this sort of thing.
Did you have an office, or?
Yes.
And where was that?
It was an administration building. The administration building was, we had covered walkways that went between the administration building and the classroom buildings, and the cafeteria and the dormitories and such, because of rainy season. Whenever the rainy season arrived, it rained, and you needed the protection between the particular facility.
What was your favorite portion of your assignment?
Our house.
It's hard to categorize the assignment based on clusters of that you can evaluate. One thing that I always enjoyed was dealing with students. However, my office was cushioned quite a bit because we had the dean of students and we had 2 layers of administration. But that was one thing that I enjoyed very much. And my just direct association with students. I taught a class, Ag Econ, at the technical school, and I taught a first course in psychology at the college. I enjoyed that. And then we introduced Ag Ed, and I taught a class in Ag Ed, and I'd take the students out in the community for them to do the practice teaching. I enjoyed that, but I would say primarily relating to students. Another one is associating with the local farmers. We'd have field days and such, and through translators. But that's one. But just a general opportunity to be there and see the development and know that you were making a contribution to this to Ethiopia was a pleasure.
What was your least favorite portion of your assignment?
Well, probably the least one would be perpetual hosting on weekends.
You didn't sign up for that.
visitors, that'd be sent down just to get them out of Addis Ababa. That'd probably be my lead. I'm sorry, but that's just, yeah, because there's times when we go week in and week out without any relief.
Oh yeah.
And whenever you got them,
What
you
church?
pick them up on Saturday morning at the airport and deliver them back Sunday
Okay.
evening at the airport and try to figure out a way to entertain them in between. You tie up your faculty and taking them on tours and this sort of thing. I don't want to belabor it, but that comes to mind. That'd probably be my least.
Yeah. You basically had no time to breathe.
We felt like that we put in a good week. We should have at least Sundays off. But see, there were no guest house on campus. So the president's home.
Oh, so your quarters
I
had
had president's home. I had 2 bedrooms with a bath in between. But our house. Now some of the visitors were very notable people. Arnold Toynbee and his wife. Arnold, and he's famous for his books, Study of Christianity.
Yes.
Uh,
History of.
In fact, we baked his wife a birthday cake. We had Dr. Wilhelm and his wife. We had some of the boards of regents from OSU. We had, not Crick, we had Watson there, who was the father of the DNA. Left-handed Watson. So we had some real dignitaries, but whenever you just had some of these visiting firemen out of Washington on a junket,
Yes.
and then needing some way to entertain them.
What about, did you ever host any Oklahoma politicians, like congressional delegations from Oklahoma, or senators, or anything like that?
I don't recall that we had any elected officials from, we hosted a lot of other officials, heads of state in Africa and Germany, and we hosted them. But I don't recall any elected official. They were all, I'll use the term, bureaucrats.
Okay.
I'll use that kindly, but they were more in that level.
So you taught at least one course per semester, or?
Yeah, I tried to teach one course.
And did you have, what kind of other interactions did you have with the students?
I had, I would just spend quite a bit of time with the student council and then working with them. They would be elected student council members, like animal science would have their student council rep, and they'd have their president and such. But dealing with them, in fact, I did more with them than any other person, because some wanted, for example, to demonstrate against white apartheid.
Apartheid?
Apartheid. How you pronounce it?
Apartheid?
Apartheid.
South African apartheid?
Yeah, that's when they were having some problems in South Africa. So they wanted to have demonstrations on campus. And I said, look, when you do that, what does our American staff think of that? You're the one you're demonstrating against. Is up and down the street here. They're the only ones looking. I said, why don't we all just get together and we'll set aside a day and we'll have a program with all, including our faculty and all, and we'll just have a program in which we all band together against apartheid. And that's what we did.
But you were east
So
of
I tried to not say, no, you can't do that. Just say, hey, this is a better way to do it.
Yes.
We let us join you because we're not for it either. But if you do it like you're doing it, you go up and down the streets of our residents, they think that you're demonstrating against them, and they're here to help you.
That's interesting. What was your interaction like between the local population?
Well, what I usually is, what we did, we would have field days, and on field days, we would have some of the Ethiopian dignitaries, the governor of the province and other dignitaries as our guests, and we would have a big cookout, and we'd feed that mass of people, and have the dignitaries to speak, and then we'd have some of the community leaders to talk. We would have meetings with sometimes with the community leaders. One of the problems we had, and Kabira's dad, if Kabira comes by, Kabira's dad was district governor of Harar, and I would go to him, and he would meet with, so here's what would happen. We would try to rotate our pastures. Now, I think I shared this with you. I would try to rotate our pastures in order to get more forage. Well, they'd see this grass growing, and to them, that was a waste, so they'd go in there and clip it, and they'd haul it out. And you can see them way down the valley, look like ants carrying off the grass. And so we would have to meet with them and try to explain to them that this was a waste, that we were trying to teach them not to just graze the ground, but graze it into the dust.
Yeah.
Another thing is we had co-ops we developed with our economic students and economic faculty, in which we would help farmers grow potatoes and irrigate it, and then ship them to Djibouti, to the French garrison over there, to get a better price. And we even had some of our students that would go along and with the shipment and, to Djibouti. And so with this co-op and showing them how the potatoes, we would size them and put them through sizing and such. So we did one time, we had such a drought there that they didn't have any grain. So we had, from our research station up in Denison, we had shipments of seed, and we divided it up into packets and handed it out to the farmers. And we had extension agents and such. So we had quite a bit of interaction.
Now, did you have to do research yourself to publish?
Not me personally. What I did, I wanted to do something, even though it wasn't my responsibility. I reviewed research. I would edit research pamphlets that our people were doing for clarification or clarity and such. But what I did, I got involved in honeybees, diverting the Ethiopian honeybee hive into the more modern hive. And I had an Ethiopian student who did his practical while working with my office, and that drew a whole lot of attention, because there's a lot of honey produced in Africa, and many of it's being year-round activity for the bees. You know, they don't go into hibernation like they do here. It is a cash crop. The honey and the comb is exported. So in the Ethiopian hive, in order to get the honey, you have to destroy the brood because it's a cylinder. It's made in a cylinder with straw at the end, and in order to get into it, you have to destroy the brood. You have to destroy it, or slowly. In some way, it diminishes the activity. Well, whereas in a modern hive, you can rob the modern hive without it all affecting the brood. And the emperor was quite, when I showed him what was being done, he was quite impressed with it. In fact, he turned to me and said, showed him a clear a frame of clear honey, just beautiful clear honey, because I'd used a queen excluder to keep her from getting up there laying eggs. And he said, I just wish people would work that hard. Well, down in the area, they had a retired soldiers farm, whereas the soldiers retired, so they had a colony of retired soldiers that did farming and such. And they said where they wanted us to give them a print or a pattern of those hives, and they developed down there on that retired farm, they developed modern hives as a particular positive practice. So that's why I wasn't in demand for my new research, but I worked with honeybees.
Did you present papers?
I presented a paper down to Kampala at a national conference down there. In fact, I'm running across a picture of the group I've got here that was taken down at Kampala. And two, that was a formal presentation. Then on occasion, I developed a plan for two-year colleges for Ethiopia. The USAID and Agriculture, the Department of Agriculture asked if I would develop a plan and a placement for two-year colleges. So I spent a lot of time writing it up and the placements. And I think what happened is where I had put two-year colleges, they've got now developed universities. Now, we were talking about the transportation in Ethiopia is primarily by between large cities, it's by airlines, flights.
How often did you correspond with those back in the United States?
Most of my correspondence was to President Wilhelm's representative in Ethiopia. That's where most of my official correspondence. Now, you're talking about personal correspondence?
Yes, family, friends.
Oh, well, my wife was always communicating with her parents and my parents, so it was just, it took quite a while for it to go, what I call APO. But no, we kept in frequent communication by surface mail.
Did you feel that you missed anything when you were gone?
Missed from states?
Yes.
No, really, not really. To me, things haven't changed all that much. And of course, by coming back every 2 years, we kind of kept in touch with what's going on. I never considered that there's any particular void in my life, even though we spent 8 years there.
Did you keep a journal or a diary of your stay, or how did you record it?
No, not particularly. We would provide, I think, annual reports, but that was always going back. We never particularly. Now, as you've seen, we've got a lot of photo albums.
Yes.
As far as just a journal, no, I never kept.
Okay. What local customs did you participate in?
Well, we would One thing is, we attended Ethiopian funerals, which is an unusual custom, especially among the local people. Another thing is, we would, on certain holidays, where there would be officials that would participate, we would go to particular events at Empress birthday or something like that. And of course, the emperor would have a number of events we would attend locally, as well as the local officials. They would host banquets, and the military academy, they would host banquets that we attended. So that was primarily official kinds of activities.
Did you enjoy Ethiopian food?
Oh, very much so, and we still
do?
order it out of Dallas from Ethiopian vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What kind of foods did you like to savor?
Oh, what was called a wat, which is a hot stew, which could be made out of either chicken or beef or sheep, and then of course there's also vegetable wat, and then an injera, which is a flat type of bread. But no, we still eat Ethiopian foods. They're very tasty, very spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right. How often would President Wilhelm visit?
I think President Wilhelm came over, I think probably about every 2 years, I'd say, that he would try to get there, or the president. I know that Dr. Calmy went over after he became president.
Yeah, that came at the end of your...
Yeah, so I think he tried about every 2 years.
How often would he stay?
How long?
Yeah, how long?
Well, he stayed at the college. I believe he stayed there about 4 days, and then he went down and visited the gym. I don't know how long he'd stay there, but I would say he would be in Ethiopia at least a week.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you have to make any special arrangements?
For President Will?
Yes.
What we would do is he would stay with me in the president's home, he and Mrs. Wilhelm, when she was along with him. And then I would make appointments with local officials for him to pay courtesy calls to. Because they always, for President Wilhelm, they always enjoyed meeting and visiting with him.
Describe your relationship with President Wilhelm.
I've got personal letters from President Wilhelm. He was a very unique person to me, and when I say unique, he never hesitated to write a letter of appreciation or thanks, or and something, a letter of congratulations in his own handwriting. He would just, like if he visited us and he was on his way home. In fact, I saw a letter this morning that he had written in Kansas City on his way home, sharing appreciation for our outreach and being very complimentary. President Wilhelm was very personable, very down to earth, very professional, but he was a person that took a keen interest in the Ethiopian program. And when he was there, we would have him to have dinner and meals with the various faculty and take him on little tours of the area.
What should people, especially OSU people, know about President Wilhelm?
What should they know? Or
Yes.
what
What should they know?
Number one, should know that he was a very humble person. Very personable individual, and would take personal interest in individuals. In fact, when my father passed away, I was in Ethiopia, and I came home from my prior to my father's passing, and I looked up at my father's funeral, and there was President Wilhelm, and with him, with all of his responsibilities, and all the other people that he has to deal with here, mine being in Ethiopia, and coming home, he took time to attend my father's funeral, and he was just that type of person. One time he said that a gentleman never ever said that they were tired. He never complained. And one thing, he had a memory for people. If he met you one time, he would know you next time. So I'm very, very amazing.
What kind of leader was he?
I would say he was an outstanding leader in that he did it in a way whereby he appointed, I think, capable and competent people, and then he expected them to carry out their responsibilities. So he did not micromanage.
Okay. What were the circumstances that led to the withdrawal of OSU support in Ethiopia?
Well, one thing is, our particular responsibility was to prepare the Ethiopians to assume the particular role of administering the system, and that's what we did. We kept, as Ethiopians became educated, then we would slot an Ethiopian in, an Oklahoma contract person, and keep phasing. And that's what happened in my position. I'm talking with OSU people and also with President of the University, Checotah. I began to sense it was time for somebody to begin to assume the head of the college, because here we had a number of Ethiopians who had their PhDs, and yet we would still be in there, and there was the development of a kind of a little bit of a resentment, which would be natural. But here we are. We've been educated, but yet here is a foreigner still heading up the institution. So we just to keep phasing out and phasing over got to my position, and an Ethiopian took that responsibility, and then we had Dr. Miller, who was in economics, and he was academic dean. He stayed there kind of to be a counselor, but yet he was not head of the institution.
Mm-hmm. When did you leave your position?
I left in 1966.
And when was the last OSU person?
I think they stayed there till about 70. I think so. You'd have to check the records on that.
Okay.
Conrad would know, Conrad Evans.
Mm-hmm. Now, getting back to working with presidents, what was your relationship with President Kahm?
He was president when I came back. President Kahm didn't come over while I was there, so
okay.
So he assumed responsibility. Of course, a collegial relationship, but my tour duty was over when he became president.
What was, so it was all along, it was a planned phase out from the very get-go?
Sure, from the very beginning, our involvement in Ethiopia was to train Ethiopians to assume the responsibility of the operation, both at Jima, at the tech school, and at Alamaya, sure. We were there to work ourselves out of a job.
Put it bluntly. Alright. Obviously, you maintain relationships from those that you met from your time in Ethiopia, right?
Well, there's one set right there.
Well, maybe, you
Back
wanna,
in Ethiopia?
maybe you wanna explain like your guest here and who he is and your relationship.
Well, Kabera Twahade's father was district governor of Iraq, and the college was in his district. And him being the district governor there, he was the one that I would work with in some of the local situations. For example, I was telling you about the local people carrying off the grass.
Yes.
And share with him, and he would work out a plan whereby he would meet then with the leaders, the local people, and express to them that this was not lawful and the purpose of it. And he also worked with the local police. And on various occasions, we would have meetings. He came one time and on Saturday, and we visited with our faculty and Ethiopian faculty, and just kept a liaison. In fact, this was before Kabera was born. When we left Ethiopia, he was down at the airport and gave me 2 engineer baskets to carry home with my luggage. And then since after I got home, he kept communication with me. Kabera had a brother that communicated in English very well, and his brother would write for his father. In fact, I told you I got a letter I found from your father. I'll tuck it away somewhere, I'll find it. But anyway, his father then kept in communication with me and indicated that he had children he'd like to come to the States. And we visited back and forth, and he had already, I don't know, 2 or 3 here. I know that Kabera had an older brother, Nauman, that was at Michigan, that I brought to the college. And then Kabera, we started with him right from the very beginning with, we had to go through I guess, the U.S., go through the ambassadors, all that, make application and all that, and I had to write documentation of how he would be supported when he got here. I went to Ministerial Alliance in Tishomingo and talked with the ministers about Kabera's needs as well as his brother's needs, and they all agreed that they would have a particular fund set aside and that they would help support, my church helped support it, and the college provided him a scholarship.
Which college?
My college.
Murray State?
Yeah, provided him a scholarship, and also provided him with room and board support. I guess your father paid you transportation over, didn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah, but anyway, kept in communication with his father. I believe about there was 11 in your family,
Yep.
and all of them but one, I guess, made it to the States. The one you had the brother to die in Ethiopia, didn't you? Yeah, so, anyway, we've got his family reunion you can take a look at over here. You know, you sent us an album.
Oh,
Yeah. So, anyway, we've had, I had 2 or 3 other Ethiopian students at college, as well as some boys from Kenya, but anyway, OSU also got involved, and still, I guess, is helping Ethiopian students.
Mhm.
We keep in communication, and then this Babo Makiso, keep in communication with him.
Mhm.
So, anyway, as I told you, that there's a lot of, I think, a lot of positive influence that the program had that had nothing to do
Yes.
with the program. In other words, he had nothing to do with
Mhm.
Alamaya. I mean, he wasn't a student and such, but the outreach that was provided, and I wasn't the only one, there's others that did more similar things as we did with Cabrera and and I'd say the influence is still over there in the Cabrera. Oklahoma State University's influence is permeated into areas that had nothing to do with going to class.
yeah, just a minor trickle-down effect.
Mhm. Well, throw a pebble into the water, it makes a wave.
No, as I mentioned to you, it was a very enriching experience for us, and the Ethiopian people by nature are extremely cordial individuals.
What type of bond is there with faculty members that served in Ethiopia?
Currently, or,
Yes.
well, you know, there's been some that have migrated to the States and have taken up positions and actually retired. And the States Cabrera may know some of them, but then there's a number of them, but they don't have to assume responsibilities for building the universities.
What about OSU faculty? Is there a bond between those that served in Ethiopia?
You talk about the OSU faculty who did not or who did
Who
serve?
went over?
Who went over?
Yes.
Well, we still have an organization that used to be the Oklahoma Ethiopian Society, but it's the Oklahoma, OES, Oklahoma Ethiopian Society now, that we have an organization, and we have every other year a meeting, and we're going to have one in October where many of our former Ethiopian students and even Ethiopian guests from the ministry and such, and those who served in Ethiopia meet and have an biannual meeting.
Did you help with the formation of this?
I held the first, paid for the first dinner at Shawnee, Oklahoma. I came to Shawnee and we had a dinner, and we got into planning this a number of years ago, whereby those of us who had served can continue, and the children, called the Ethiopians.
Ethiopians.
Well, I've got a daughter, Kay, born in Ethiopia. So, yeah, we
I don't think that name, sorry.
Ethiopians, we still meet. We get less and less every year, but the Evans are quite instrumental in keeping that camaraderie and joy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Who thought of this idea, or how did this idea spring forth?
About what?
The Oklahoma Ethiopia Assistance Group.
Well, I don't know. I guess, I don't know who else was thinking about it, but I was the first one, and I'm not bragging or complaining. I was the first one that spent my own money to host a luncheon at Shawnee, in which people from Stillwater, from the Tulsa area, and from all around, who many of them had retired, came, and I talked to them about, hey, let's form an organization in which we could continue to carry on a relationship, not only among ourselves, but also with our Ethiopian colleagues. And we raised money for computers for the college. We asked for foundations. I know that we got money from Kirkpatrick Foundation, Oklahoma City. So we carried on until we got as a 501c3. In fact, I helped develop the 501c3. You got to go through hoops, to get a 501c3. So we had established the 501c3. Then it got to the point where many of us were getting aged, and so we decided to, rather than keep it on a 501c, that we would just go to a social. Because in 501c3, you've got to make annual reports and all that stuff. So we went to a social organization and changed it to OES, and so now it's carrying on about the same, but a scaled down version of it.
How did the Ethiopian experience impact your life?
Well, it's one is indescribable because there's so many ramifications of it. In that, I think that without that experience, I would say I'd sure I've led a very narrow, narrow type of appreciation for the world as a whole. But by having this opportunity, I not only got to meet different people, but also got to get a broader view of the world as a whole. And certainly it reconfirms that we as God's creation and human beings, we have a whole lot more in common than we have our differences. And it's just, to me, as I've shared with some other colleagues, I think I've lived to such extent that I think it'd be two lives. It would take a whole lot of cramming in to live my life on account of the opportunities, starting in the Depression days, on very poor situations. I mean, poor financially. And then having this opportunity as a little country kid, it is amazing, really. And as I say, it's indescribable. I wouldn't, if someone said, Clyde, if you had your life to live over, what would you want? I couldn't ask for any more. Couldn't ask for any more, because being in the service and serving in Germany and coming back, GI Bill and going to, and everything opening up for me, it's just awesome. And so it's just sad. I see things going on throughout the world. It's just a bunch of nonsense. Why in the world carried on that way? It's beyond me.
How do you view your life's trajectory? Do you think it was a path that you serendipitously followed, or?
I never established any lifetime goals except to whatever position I was in is to do the best I could. And the thing about it is I never did hold a position that I didn't particularly like. In other words, some people I guess go through life working, wishing they were somewhere else. I've never done that from the time that I even in the service, I did the best I could in the service. I went in as a private and got to staff sergeant in a matter of a few weeks because I did whatever I was assigned to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been just kind of been my life. It just doors have opened and opportunities are there, and it's the way it's been. When I was teaching VOAG at Broken Arrow, I just told VOAG, I had practice teachers, but the OSU said, hey, we'd like to have you to come as a teaching assistant. I sure hated to leave, but I did. And then when I got my doctorate, I was looking around and they said, hey, we got program 1 in Ethiopia we'd like you to look at. Well, I reluctantly accepted it. After I accepted it, my mom cried for a day or two, and after she quit crying, I started crying. Did I make the right decision? Here I was taking a little old 3-year-old boy to Ethiopia. Her parents cried, my parents cried. Anyway, it all unfolded, and it couldn't have been any better.
Could you briefly share some of your highlights since you came back to the States? I know you had extensive career at being the president at Murray State College, and I was just wondering what are some of the highlights there that you can briefly discuss?
Highlights at Murray State?
Yes, sir.
I would say from the standpoint of coming there and seeing a situation in which the physical plant had been sorely neglected. The curriculum had been so designed whereby there were about 3 male students to 1 female, which made it very difficult as far as growth is concerned. The housing at the college there, the male students had the best of the housing, females didn't. I'm telling you the truth, I swear on stand. And so I began to look at that situation and said, why? Well, the male population had agriculture. It was the prime source of agriculture, and the plurality of all VOAG students, not the plurality, not the majority, but the plurality of all VOAG students, teachers, had come through Murray State. And so the home ec had started out strong, but then home ec became unpopular. So they went to domestic science, they called it other things, and still. So what I did, I developed programs that attracted females. One is they did not have sports for females. So we developed one of the first women's basketball teams at the 2-year college. Another thing is we upgraded our business. Another one is we put in veterinary technology, which is it's a veterinary assistant, which attracts a lot of females, but small animals. And so we and then the big one was nursing. We got nursing in there. Now the population, as far as student ratios, probably there's a few more females.
Yeah.
And 2, if you get a good wholesome female population, the males will come. I mean, that's natural. I mean,
That's true.
You couldn't get, when you've got three males to 1 female going on your campus, you're not gonna get any of them to come. And, so you go by there now, Camara went by there not too long ago. It's a lot different than when he first went there. And it's still growing, and there's garden areas there that were developed, and it's a beautiful campus. It was beautiful. So I don't regret that I spent 27 years there, even though I had opportunities to go elsewhere. And I go back, they've named the farm after me down there, Camara. Did you see that?
I took a picture.
It's got Clyde Kindell's farm. And so again, I've used the term I, but it was really we. I had a lot of fine people with them to work.
How did your experience as president of Alamaya prepare you for being president at Murray State?
Oh, it was tremendous help because when I was president of Alamaya, see, I told you that with my age, see, I became president there in 1960. I was 33 years of age. And whenever they nominated me for the emperor to consider, they held their breath because in Ethiopia, gray hair is kind of considered as an honor of position and such. I didn't have any gray hair. And so the emperor had to confirm my position. Of all the positions in which you had, my position was the only one that the emperor had to sign off on. The others were signed off by subordinates in the government. But the emperor became regent at about the same age, so evidently age didn't mean a whole lot to him because he was only 33 when he became regent. And then soon after, I was appointed, the coup came along. And that's when we continued. We never missed a class. And I shared that with you.
Yeah. Yes.
We never missed a class, even though we had students from various tribal groups, even Masmero, and we had, what are galas called now? The galas are rumbles. We had a variety of tribal, but by keeping a communication, we continued, and we never, up in Addis Ababa, they had all kinds of demonstrations and walkouts, and they took sides, and this chaos up there at the universities. And the emperor found out and expressed his appreciation that we remained steadfast and loyal. We had the governor of the province to come out and visit with our students, and we were stable. We carried on. And so that in itself, and then too, here I was a foreigner, yet I had Ethiopians who were indigenous people under my authority, and that took some skill. I tried to put myself in their place and say, how would I react if I had a foreigner over me? See? And so I tried to foster good relationships. When I went to Ismango, it was all downhill from there. Well, it was because I didn't have the challenges there that I had for 6 years in Ethiopia. It was a wide range. I also had to govern the residential area, set rules for pets. We couldn't have pets because of rabies. I had to tell people to get rid of their dogs or their cats. So I didn't only have to be president, I had to be mayor of the community there. and building faculty houses to satisfy the ethnic needs of the Ethiopians and such. It was a challenge, but I survived. Some Ethiopians got very upset with me because they thought that they ought to take over. That was fine with me, but the president of the whole university system came down and did Checotah Area. And I told him, I said, you know, we've got some Ethiopians here that wants to be head of the college. They want to be co-president because they've got their doctorates and such. And I said, President Gossa, that's fine with me. Just let me just change it for country agreements, rewrite your country agreements and tell me what I'm supposed to do. He said, no, we can't change the country agreements. We have to hold on to them. So I had his support. I wasn't there holding on to the president's job because I was so possessive. It's just a fact that was written out. And but anyway, I survived, and a lot of the Ethiopians now that were my students, they thought I was pretty tough on them. And they tell my son when they're at these meetings, and you know, I used to be afraid of your dad when I was a student. He's a pretty good guy.
So, all that stress helped you?
The experience was very valuable for this job. I spent 27 years in it was a good proving ground, I'll tell you, sure.
Now, is there anything else you would like to add that you can think of?
No, I just I appreciate having an opportunity to share my experiences, especially my personal conversations with Emperor Haile Selassie. I don't mean to drop any names, but anyway, as I look at it, the reason that he kind of treated me more like a son than anything else, and he did, is the fact that right at the outset, I proved to him that I was loyal to Ethiopia, and of course it'd be to him, when everybody else was running in every direction. And I was able to have a relationship with him that would be much more casual. Like I told you about not being able to speak Amharic, and he, when I told him that, I told you that story, didn't I? What about the emperor?
I'm not sure.
Well, the emperor was down, and we were walking across campus, and we were hosting him for a luncheon. He and his entourage, there was members of the royal family. There was old Ross Messman. You probably don't remember. Your dad would know Ross Messman. You read him about him in history books. Ross Messman and a bunch of other dignitaries. But anyway, we were walking across campus. The emperor turned to me and said, "You've been in Ethiopia long enough. I'm not going to be speaking any more English with you. You got to speak Amharic." Well, I don't know enough about Amharic, but just to carry on a conversation. Amharic's not the easiest language in the world to learn. And so I thought, what in the world am I going to do? Well, during the luncheon, we were sitting at the head of the table. Mr. Kindell and I were at the table. And, in our ultimate place at the table, such. While everything went quiet, I said, Your Majesty. I said, Buzu Amranian. Amranian. Allah. In there, Ross. All the dignitaries sat there. Boy, they rolled their eyes. They wondered what else what was coming, boy. Hear this forensic talking to His Majesty like that. His Majesty chuckled. He just kind of chuckled. And he never tried to speak American ever again. We got along well in English. And all the way down, he had just come back from President Kennedy's funeral. And on the way down, he was telling me about how he admired him. But I said that right. I got a picture of where I was sitting. But Cabrera, I didn't know what, I mean, if I hadn't some way got out of that, no way could I carry on an intelligent conversation with the Emperor and Harry. Man, I'd taken, Bamo's brother was a student of mine, and he in high school, and he was my American teacher. I learned to read some of the American and such, but golly, to carry on a conversation.
Especially with a smart man like him.
Kitchen there, American. Golly. But anyway, I survived, and he wanted me to stay another year at least. And I sent word it was time. The Ethiopians were wanting to take over. And I don't blame them. McCollum Keverett, who succeeded me as a dean then, I took the title of president. There were no longer presidents down there at the time. They were deans because they're part of the university system. I think maybe it's president now, but I wasn't that.
Maybe one last question. How have you viewed Ethiopia's history since your time there?
I have been disappointed at times. I was sorry. I was sorry that Mengistu, Adamir did what he did. But, and again, I was no Solomon being in my 30s, but some of the Ethiopian faculty would sit around and kind of chide about the old man. They call the emperor the old man. Okay, of course, but to his back. And I told him one time, I told my Ethiopian faculty friends, I said, one thing, sooner or later the good Lord's going to be calling him home. And I said, he's going to leave such a vacuum in this whole thing that you're going to wish he's still emperor. I said, sure, he's like anyone else. He has his shortcomings, but I said, you better be thankful you've got a benevolent monarch. Are you going to? Well, sure enough, when he gave up his dynasty, it fell in. And I was so sad that it went into chaos because Mengistu was cruel. He was captain down at the military academy and used to come out to college and have a beer with some of our people when he was down there. But I want to say this, and I've said this to Cabrera, and I'll say this to you. One of the situations that it's not because it's Ethiopia, it can also happen here in the United States. If you educate a large mass of people and you raise that aspiration level, that's what catches you, is that aspiration level is raised with that education. And here they are, uneducated, with an aspiration that cannot be fulfilled. Causes frustration, alienation, and this was what was happening there. The emperor, his vision was much larger than his country could develop. It couldn't fulfill the aspirations that he was fostering in those young Ethiopians. And as a result, they resented, they blamed him. And then some of the things that happened that wasn't his fault, that triggered it. I mean, and this is, I'm telling you young people, I'm not going to be around to see it, but mark my word, the way our society is developing here now, with so much dissension among different people, one particular kind of incident may not have much relationship to the others. Once that sparks, then it's a kind of an explosive sort of thing.
Yes.
Rebels without causes. I'm frustrated, but I don't know why. But I'm frustrated, and I vent my anxieties by doing this, whatever it might be. To give you an example, and excuse me for preaching, we used to have a lot of faculty have to commute from Diridala every day, up that mountain and down that mountain. It wasn't an easy task because it was hazardous. They knew that they did not have housing on campus, so they had to commute daily.
Mm-hmm.
There was all kinds of situations that arise that they were unhappy about. Now, they weren't unhappy about going up and down the mountain because they recognized that that was something they had to deal with. But it, in a sense, affected their whole emotional structure, that anything else would trigger the release. Once I got them on campus and got them in campus housing, all of that little nitpicking ceased. It had no relationship. So what I'm saying, we as human beings, we've got to have an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make it up. That makes sense? If we have to fabricate it, we have to have an outlet. That's self-preservation. Okay, sorry about preaching.
No, it's all right.
But just, I'm concerned about our society that there's so many things happening. That, you see protests. Our society is not historically dealt with protests. I have some of my friends here in Denison are protesting certain things. I said, hey, if you got something, you want to deal with somebody, go talk to them face to face. Don't get out in the street or get out and protest. And this is what I told my students. I said, if you've got a concern, you as one student got a concern, you don't need to go protest. Come and talk to me about it.
Yeah, and you say that.
We'll deal with that concern. You don't need 10 people to prove that you have a concern. And I had to deal with protests at Murray State, but I just say, hey, if it's worthy, I'll get out there and protest with you. I was telling you, you remember all the South African, this was again before your time, when they were having such problems down there with, pronounce that word for me.
Apartheid.
Apartheid. I hear my Ethiopian students come to me and say, we want to demonstrate against apartheid. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? Well, we want to make big signs, placards, and march up and down the streets in front of the faculty housing. I said, oh, okay. Against what's happening in South Africa. I said, okay, let's look at it. Here, they're here as farmers,
Yeah.
as fringes, they're here to help you. You get out there with big old placards, march you up and down in front of their house. Against apartheid. They're going to think you're demonstrating against them. Oh no, we're not doing that. I said, okay, we're all against it. Faculty and all, the Americans and all, we're all against it, okay. I said, why don't we just have a day in which we will have a program, and we'll all get together and we'll demonstrate against apartheid. I said, that's great. So the engineers, people helped them build some signs, and we just took half a day off.
Like a teach-in.
Huh?
Like a teach-in.
Yeah, and just had a half a day off and had various speeches and all that out together. They waved placards, but they weren't down the street, so.
All right. I think, well, I'm going to thank you for your time and visiting the last 2 times. Definitely provided insight that of OSU's experience there, and it'll be greatly appreciated. I greatly appreciate it, but it'll be greatly appreciated, hopefully, for researchers in the future. So thank you, sir.
It's been my pleasure. Hope I haven't told you more than you want to know.
No, you're fine.